It's Rob and Sandra from My Wife the Dietitian, and this is Nutrition Nuggets.
Hey, Rob.
Hello, Sandra.
Hey, why is cottage cheese's popularity having such a resurgence these days in the food world?
Because we keep talking about it and telling people how awesome it is.
Do we?
If we do. It's my favorite thing to eat, and we talk about it all the time. And we're like, you know what's really good is cottage cheese. So all the people listening to our podcast are like, maybe Rob's got a point. I'm going to go try some cottage cheese in my smoothie or in my whatever we've recommended. And I think we're to blame.
Ah, right. Well, I know we talked a lot about it in the calcium episode 18, which is one of our top 10 episodes of all time.
Crazy.
Most listened to.
I think people like the little song I sing. I think maybe I need to sing more.
Yeah, please.
That's the bottom line. It's nothing to do with calcium.
No.
It's that Rob's singing.
Yep.
Right?
I want to hear more of that.
Oh, wow.
Also, episode 47, Protein Pop Quiz, which is our number one favorite episode of all time with listeners. I think we talked about cottage cheese.
Oh, like I said, we talk about it all the time.
Do we?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's more than just us in the food world that's talking about cottage cheese.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's, I think it's popular now because it is such a good source of protein.
Well, that's why I started eating it. I mean, I like cheese. I've always liked cottage cheese, but when I realized like the health benefits and how nutritious it is, I started making it a staple. Like it lives in our fridge all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's versatile. That's the other thing.
Well, exactly.
And I think it's popular because it has been promoted as, or touted as, for weight loss diets and for athletes for building muscle because of the protein aspect.
Yeah, exactly.
But today we're going to talk about why its popularity is coming back and what is cottage cheese and the cottage cheese diet. What is that a thing? And nutrition facts of cottage cheese, and then uses in recipes and our food hacks that you and I use cottage cheese in our meals.
How we like to eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. So let's, well, you were going to tell us why it's the other reason why it's gaining in popularity.
Well, I think partly the title, low carb cottage cheese, because a lot of people are kind of trying to reduce the amount of carbs in their diet. And cottage cheese as a snack or part of a meal is fairly low carb. Like there's low carbohydrates in it.
Low carb, high protein. It sounds like the perfect keto food.
Yeah. And
which kind of makes sense because keto's a big thing. And so people have discovered the keto friendly foods, right?
Yeah. And it's fairly bland. Like it is similar to dessert tofu in terms of it's high protein, it's versatile, it's bland, it's mild, it's creamy if you blend it with things. Like we're going to talk about different uses like the smoothies.
Yeah. And there's different versions of it that you can get, like depending on the fat content, right? Like the milk fat, that's what the MF percentage is on the label.
Yeah.
Milk fat percent.
We did do an episode on reading labels way back. And that's a good one for people to listen to again, because we talk all about that. And actually through this, I'm going to compare cottage cheese and plain yogurt and just we're going to look at the comparison of the nutrition facts.
Yeah. And I will say too that there is a lot of variety between brands. I'm a bit of a cottage cheese aficionado.
Okay.
And I've noticed that the flavor, the texture, the creaminess, all of those things vary between manufacturers. So if you don't like one, then try a different one and you might find something that you do like.
Yeah, true. There's a lot of additives and preservatives and different things companies can add, and you can actually make your own cottage cheese at home, although that might turn some people off. I mean, there's definitely people out there that when I do diet histories and talk to clients and I ask about cottage cheese, they get this crazy look on their face and, oh God, I can't stand that stuff.
It's kind of like in the same group as tofu for a lot of people, I think. Right?
I guess it's just a little different. It's some older people sometimes, and I'm just like total blanket statement here, and it's not true of everybody, but they'll be like, no way, I don't touch that stuff. That's gross. Or, there's different reactions
Maybe they
cottage
grew up
cheese.
on a farm and they saw how it was made and it turned them off.
Well, it's just like if you think of cheese is similarly made, but it's aged and ripened. Whereas cottage cheese is a curd cheese. It's fresh. So basically you take milk, whatever, like skim or 1% or 2%, however fat content you want to have as your cottage cheese. So you take that fat content of the milk and then you add a acidic, so vinegar or lemon juice. So it's kind of like making buttermilk. I don't know if I've had to make buttermilk because we don't have it in the fridge. So you take a glass of milk and add a tablespoon of vinegar and then you just leave it on the counter for 10 minutes and it curdles, and that's buttermilk. And that's similar to how you make cottage cheese.
So that's what the chunks are.
Yeah, it's curds.
That's why people don't like it, because it's like curdled milk. They're like, you want me to eat that now? That's nasty.
I know.
So yeah, don't think about it that way, even though that's what it is.
Yeah. And then, so there's definitely recipes online about how to make it at home, but then companies add different flavorings and preservatives. They might add herbs and spices. They might add more salt, more cream.
It's definitely on the saltier side, some of them.
Oh yeah. Like looking at the nutrition facts, can I just do a comparison here?
Oh, go for it.
So, okay. So the cottage cheese we have, it's a 1% and it's half a cup. That's what it says on the nutrition label.
The serving size.
Yeah.
Half a cup, yeah.
And it's funny because remember, I think in the label reading one, we talked about you have to compare products, like the serving size is the first thing you look at, because otherwise you're comparing different numbers.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
Because the reason I say that is the yogurt, it's a plain yogurt. So I'm going to compare it to the yogurt, but their serving size is 3/4 of a cup.
Right.
So it's a little bit different. So the cottage cheese is half a cup or 125 gram weight, and the yogurt is 3/4 of a cup, which is 175 gram weight. So a little bit more yogurt that we're comparing here. So just to keep in mind, I didn't make them equal, but okay, 110 calories per half a cup of cottage cheese and 140 calories for 3/4 of a cup of yogurt. So a little bit more calories, but it's a little bit more portion size too.
Right. So probably
Similar.
close.
Yeah, exactly. So it's totally not apples to apples that we're measuring here, because this is a 6% milk fat, whereas the cottage cheese is 1% milk fat. So the calories a little bit different. The fat, definitely more fat in the yogurt because it's a higher milk fat percentage. And the big thing though is the protein. So the big differences are protein and sodium.
Okay.
So which one do you think has more protein?
Cottage cheese.
You got it.
Yeah.
17 grams per
I've done this before.
Okay, but there we go. We're doing it together with the audience. So protein is 6 grams for the 3/4 of a cup of yogurt.
Well, that's it, eh?
6 grams.
Well, and is that a high fat content yogurt? Is that like a Greek yogurt?
It's not Greek, but it is high fat content.
It's kind of in between.
It's Balkan.
It's not the low yogurt, but it's not the Greek.
That's right. It's 6% milk fat yogurt.
Yeah, because I don't even think Greek yogurt's that high in protein. I don't think it's as high as cottage cheese.
No, it's not, but it is higher than this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the carbs are almost identical.
Okay.
The yogurt and the cottage cheese.
Right.
But the sodium is a lot different.
Higher in cottage cheese.
You got it. Yeah. It's like a 19% daily value. So it's 430 milligrams. So that's getting up there. You know, it's like on the, remember we have that green light, red light. It's like
what did you say the percentage was? 19%?
Yes.
Oh yeah. That is, anything over 15 is high, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like
that's pretty high.
Amber light, the middle, like caution.
So is that added or is that created through the process of making it?
That's a really good question.
Well, thank you. That's why I'm
Maybe
here.
I'll give you the, you can look at the ingredients.
I can't read that.
Okay.
They made the words too small.
I believe it's the bacterial culture. Sorry. The second ingredient is salt. It's added to it.
Okay. Because I was going to say they're both probably a similar process. They're both a milk-based, like that. They start as a milk-based product, right?
Yes.
They go through different processes, so it must have salt added to it.
Yeah. And the yogurt doesn't have acid added to it, so it doesn't curdle the same way as the cottage cheese. Because hard cheese or other cheeses are usually aged and ripened, whereas the cottage cheese, it's a curd cheese and it's not aged. It's a fresh cheese.
Gotcha. Were you going to tell us more about why it's gaining in popularity?
I think partly because it is so versatile. There's more and more food blogs out there showing how people can use cottage cheese. So if you get over the fact, if you didn't like it or if your parents didn't like it and you are younger and you're starting to look at food and nutrition in a different way, you might start looking at cottage cheese and you can put it in smoothies, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've talked about that. It makes it really creamy. Like once it's, obviously you don't have chunks in your smoothie, you'd want to break it down in your blender. But yeah, it makes it nice and creamy and gives it some flavor.
Yeah, exactly. It's mild, it's smooth, it gives it some texture. Like the smoothie, it gives it a little bit more
bulk, kind of like thickness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And actually soft dessert tofu does a similar action in a smoothie.
Yeah. I always found it as a bit thinner, but I guess it depends on the quantities you use.
Oh, I know what I was going to mention. Dry curd cottage cheese it doesn't have as much cream added and it's, I think, strained off. So you're getting, it's drier. It's kind of good for lasagna recipes. It's similar to a ricotta cheese.
Right. Yeah. And would that be like 0% fat? Is that how you know that it's
exactly? It's 0% fat and it's so much lower in sodium. The ones I've seen.
And still similar protein level?
Yes.
I would think, yeah.
Yeah, really high in protein. So those are really good in a savory dish.
Yeah, like good for adding to things.
Yeah, like in pastas, like the lasagnas I mentioned.
You wouldn't want to just eat a bowl of it because it doesn't have the cream. It'd be, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's used in recipes, I think, more. So there's other ways to use the cottage cheese in recipes. So like you can make it in pancakes and waffles and other baked goods. So like in a sweet way. And that's the creamy cottage cheese.
Right.
So like in muffins or coffee cake or cheesecake. I've looked up lots of different recipes and made recipes with cottage cheese. It's just you can use cottage cheese instead of other items such as sour cream or cream cheese.
Yeah, they're good. It was either something you made or something we made somewhere or ate somewhere rather. And it was really tasty. Like it definitely gave it that creaminess and a little bit of cheesy flavor, but like a cheesecake more, not like cheese and crackers kind of flavor, but more like the sweet part of cheese. So
oh yeah,
it was good. I liked it a lot.
Well, and then that's a way you can eat it as a snack, cottage cheese and fruit. Like that's a great snack for kids. Like they're actually coming out with, those little single servings for lunch boxes with the cottage cheese and fruit on the bottom.
I don't prefer it with fruit as much. Like I'll grab some cottage cheese as a snack and I'll put like nuts in it. And I'll put hot sauce on it or something, or
you like it the savory and salty.
I do, yeah. Or some like arugula or whatever, chopped up veggies or some cherry tomatoes or
that sounds so good.
Yeah, black
Delicious.
Olives or whatever we have. Kind of, it's a good base for adding things to. But the sweet one, I find to me changes its flavor a little bit, and I just prefer it's still good. It's just not my preference. I prefer the salty or whatever you call it. It's the savory.
Yeah. Do you remember we used those figs and we made like fig sauce and then put that with cottage cheese? Oh, so delicious. See, the cottage cheese really balances out sweet or salty, like savory. But it's like when you have pineapple and cottage cheese, then you get that kind of tang and then the mild taste of the cottage cheese. So when people are going through cancer treatment, this is one way I used to talk about cottage cheese and fruit with people that are having taste changes and flavor alterations in their mouth because of different medications they're on, or if they're on a systemic therapy or chemo, then you take, cottage cheese and pineapple or cottage cheese and mango or, canned fruit. And if you pair them together, that actually really brings out different flavors and it helps the taste buds. So it's a really good way to use cottage cheese.
Interesting. And it's because of the treatment they're going through that has changed their taste buds or the way that they taste food, right?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
crazy.
correct. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's the cottage cheese is so versatile in that sense. And it is loaded with nutrition. I mean, it's got the protein, as we mentioned, a really good source of protein, B vitamins, minerals like potassium, phosphorus, calcium. That's why when I said it, we talked about it in episode 18, the calcium, because it is a pretty good source of calcium.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's a dairy product, right?
Yeah, it's actually similar to the yogurt on the comparison I've done here with these two labels.
Yeah.
It's almost the same daily value, like 12% and 13%. So
That's pretty good.
super close. Yeah. Yeah. And there is this fad diet, cottage cheese diet. Is that a thing?
I'm sure it is, right?
Exactly. That might be another reason that it's popular.
Oh, probably.
Because it's like, oh, what is that? And how will that work? And well, it's like it's a fad diet. So if you think of what happens in a diet is basically you eat cottage cheese at 3 meals a day and other foods too. But what happens after you do that for a month or something?
Well, you don't like cottage cheese anymore.
Exactly.
And you go back to your regular eating habits and you're probably going to just gain all that weight back.
Yeah, and you'll be frustrated and you won't ever want to touch cottage cheese again. This is the whole problem with diets in the first place.
Yeah.
Is that you overeat a certain food over and over and over again because, you've heard it's really good for you. So then you exclude other foods. You don't have the variety and balance in your diet. So that's not good either in terms of nutrition and nutritional balance, like getting all the vitamins and minerals that our body needs. So to just, use cottage cheese that often, exclude other things, and then your taste buds get sick of this food. And it's like, in a year, you won't ever want to touch cottage cheese again.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's really not a great approach to any food or any kind of way of eating to, only eat it and exclude everything else. So the cottage cheese diet is something, kind of coming up in popularity. There's no like real guidelines with it. And in my opinion, it's not a good idea to even do anything like that. Like it's like the grapefruit diet or the cabbage soup diet or like how many different diets. And we talked all about this in one of the episodes, like way back, one of our original, like our first.
I was going to say, what's funny is in that episode, we said something about we should start a diet. We'll do like the cheese diet. Do you remember that?
Isn't that funny?
Because I like to eat cheese and I like to eat cottage cheese. But yeah, we jokingly said, we should like start the cheese diet and we'll eat nothing but cheese 24/7. And so, yeah, once again, someone's run with our idea. And
you're so funny, Rob.
made the cottage cheese thing into a reality.
You're hilarious. Do you know the whole, curds and whey? That there's a
like
nursing
a
rhyme?
children's rhyme. It is, isn't it?
I think so.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and that's like cottage cheese because the curds come from.
I never knew what that meant. Like as a child, those words were just funny words.
Yeah. The whey is the liquidy part, and it's got where the calcium is, and the casein is where the curds are in the cottage cheese. So curds and whey is like cottage cheese, eating the curds and whey.
Interesting.
Yeah. So cool.
We learned so much doing this, eh?
I know. It's pretty awesome. I actually listen to episodes before I'm about to give a talk, and I'm like, what did we say about this one again? Because, you do the intensive research and search for all the information, and then, it's just right at our fingertips in the episodes.
We're like our own library.
We're becoming a big Wikipedia.
Yep. There we go. We're here for you.
So the thing about cottage cheese, I just wanted to mention for some people, well, if you're vegan, it wouldn't work.
Because it's dairy.
That's right. It comes from an animal.
Yep.
So it does have cholesterol as part of the fat profile. So there are saturated fats in cottage cheese and cholesterol. And also some people, there's quite a few people, a lot of different populations in the world that do not tolerate lactose. So cow's milk.
Right.
So that's a downfall of cottage cheese. It does have lactose. And it is one of those lactose containing foods that is pretty high in lactose. So some foods like yogurt, people with lactose intolerance, some people can actually tolerate the lactose in yogurt because of the active culture and it's kind of broken down. But liquid milk, like drinking a glass of milk, cow's milk for people with a lactose intolerant is usually not well tolerated, either as ice cream or cottage cheese.
Yeah, I guess it's just super concentrated.
Yeah.
So people who have issues with that need to be aware of that.
Yeah, and then there are people with milk allergy. So if you have an allergy to milk protein, like the casein or the whey, then cottage cheese wouldn't work for you either.
Right. Okay.
But, it does help prevent insulin resistance, and it delays the development of type 2 diabetes for people. Eating cottage cheese can help with your blood sugar spike.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Because of the protein and...
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
Wow.
there's some benefits. So it's
No
good
doubt.
for heart health and blood sugar control.
I love how the chemistry of food and all these like little connections and
Me too.
it's so neat.
I love it.
Yeah,
I know.
I know you do.
I've always loved it, but it's like the more, like there's just so much more to learn. You think, oh, you must know everything about it. No, I feel like I just know the tip of the iceberg about everything. There's just so much more to learn about everything. It's so interesting.
It's really fascinating. Yeah, it's neat to hear this stuff.
And actually, I just heard recently about the Mind diet because we talked about that way back, episode 8.
Something like that. Yeah, back in the early days.
Yeah, and I really like the Mind diet, but there's been new evidence. So we'll probably do a whole episode on that. But basically, they're saying that cheese is not as bad as they thought.
It's because we keep plugging it. I'm telling you.
Well, I was always thinking with the Mediterranean
Maybe Rob's onto
diet,
something.
right? With the Mediterranean diet, that's a big part of the lifestyle is, in France, like having cheese, or in Italy, having cheese. That's part of it. So how is it like that you shouldn't have cheese?
Well, because they have good cheese.
Right.
Right? The cheese you buy at the local grocery store isn't the cheese the French people are eating. They'd
Right.
turn their nose up at it probably and go, oh, that's not cheese.
Right.
Well, they'd say it in a French accent, of course, but
But the ripening and the aging process, I think probably makes that cheese even better. So anyways, we'll do that on another episode. But today we're just basically breaking down the cottage cheese, and I think we've covered pretty much everything we were going to talk about.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other things that you use it in recipes? Oh, we do put it in salads. So it's like a salad bar item,
Oh, for sure.
right? Like you put it with olives or your...
Like I said, I just build it with a salad. I'll put cottage cheese, a little hard-boiled egg, some form of lettuce or greens, some cut up cucumber, peppers, tomatoes. And nuts, pumpkin seeds, that kind of thing.
And black pepper.
Yeah, because it's your protein in your salad, instead of chicken breast or whatever.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, exactly.
It can be your little scoop of protein there. So that's an easy one.
That's right. And also it could be a base for sauces and dips and spreads. So people actually spread it on toast. So I know you don't, Rob, but some people do. Just like they'd use an
I've
avocado.
never thought of that.
Yeah.
I'm going to try that now.
Yeah. You
That
can
makes
put
sense.
it on like an avocado toast. You can actually do like cottage cheese on toast. And
I make cheese and crackers with it. If there's no cheese, I'll use cottage cheese on
right.
crackers.
Well,
it's
same thing then,
It is
right?
kind of the same. It's a little wet, but yeah.
But that's actually even better. I mean, for chewing and just ease of
Sure.
eating.
You put it in, we'll make a big spaghetti sauce for pasta or whatever, and Sandra will always have a big scoop of cottage cheese on it because it melts and gets all creamy and like long, gooey kind of melted cheese in the hot sauce. So that's kind of a good.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, any kind of most warm dishes we have, like a hot meal, even soup, I will put a blob of cottage cheese or plain yogurt. It just gives a little bit of creaminess and a little bit of taste
Contrast.
That's the word. Thank you.
Yeah, Sandra was playing charades here with me. I wish you guys could see what goes on behind the microphones here. It's pretty funny.
You're funny.
It all sounds so dialed in and professional, but we're sitting making big hand gestures at each other, and like Sandra gives me dirty looks sometimes when I ask the wrong question, and
I give you flirty looks
oh,
too
that
with my
too.
eyes.
Oh yeah. We're allowed to do that, though.
Yeah, we are. That's right. My wife, the dietitian.
Yeah, you are my wife, so it's allowed.
You're funny. Yeah, and like curry dishes, like butter chicken kind of dishes, I'll put some cottage cheese. Just it kind of as like the contrast. It brings down that spiciness and makes it like a different flavor. So anyways, that's how I use it, and that's how we use it in our kitchen. And we'd love to hear how you guys use your cottage cheese and like how you eat it. Do you just eat it plain? Do you put it with fruit? Do you put it in recipes? Do you put it in smoothies?
Yeah, and are you eating it more now than you used to?
Yeah, exactly.
And is it because of us? I want to know.
Okay, you can ask whatever you want, Rob.
Cool. Well, we should wrap this up. I think this is our longest nutrition nuggets to date, but that's okay because it's cottage cheese and there's lots to know.
Yes.
So it's all good. You got any more to say?
No. Next week we're going to do eating and nutrition, eating and breathing.
Eating and nutrition. We're going to talk about something food related next week. Maybe some nutrition topics. Yeah, it'll be a good one.
Breathing, like, lung disease and breathing, and, there's all these wildfires and how the smoke impacts our health, and if we can eat to
aid in that kind of,
counteract the free radicals happening. Yeah,
how does eating impact your breathing? That'll be a good one. All right. Well, check out the website in the meantime. There's lots of new things coming up there. It's mywifethedietitian.com. If you have questions, comments, email us at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, all under My Wife the Dietitian. And don't forget to rate and review the show. Please and thank you. That helps keep our name out there for other people to find the show and learn all the awesome things you guys have learned.
And the reviews, the written reviews, oh my God, they are amazing. They might make our heart soar. It's just, it's so awesome to hear people's feedback and input and questions and just their experience with listening to My Wife the Dietitian. I just love hearing that people like re-listen to past episodes and are learning more and telling their friends and family about what they've learned on My Wife the Dietitian. This is the whole reason we started this.
Yeah, it's nice to know we're having a positive impact in people's lives. So we appreciate hearing from you. Even if it's just a private email, that's fine too. Not everyone wants to have their name on Apple reviews, but you can be anonymous on there too. You don't have to have your name and address and postal code and all that written down. It can just be anonymous, but
and you can just like give us a 5-star. Like it's a really easy thing to do on a mobile phone. You just basically there's the little stars and you just push it and then you've basically given 5-star rating, and it really helps with keeping us up there in the charts for other people to find.
Absolutely, because there are a couple nutrition shows out there. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we're not the only one. We are the one plugging cottage cheese, though.
Well,
our current claim to fame.
I like that we have this. We are doing the back and forth.
The married thing, right?
The dialogue is nice. I like that.
I think so too. Cool. All right. Well, we'll let you go. That's enough for this week, and we'll be back. What day is today? We'll be back Monday with our chat about breathing. So have a good week, everyone.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks for joining us today on My Wife the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review, and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.